What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell with On 3. Today on the Hard Count, we're going to get some fall camp insight from what's going on at Texas A&M. Welcome into the Hard Count, the people show for every single thing that you know and that you love about college football. It happens here on a daily basis. Nick Brake doing the heavy lifting. You can help drive the show by subscribing to the channel. So Nick and I were talking before this video even got started with filming, and we were just saying it is football time. There are high schools all over the country that are now into their week 0 of their football season. And so college football is just around the corner. We are in single-digit days till they tee off, and I'm fired up about it. But before we get to the actual games, you got to have fall camp. It is the dog days of summer that are nearing an end, but you got to go through it to get to the regular season. So we're going to talk about the insight that we have about what's going on at Texas A&M. Because Texas A&M is, for a lot of people, a sneaky college football playoff contender. Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. I think they're really close, but I'm going to tell you what's going on right now at A&M per some of our sources, some of the insight and the intel that we've got throughout our network. And then I'm going to tell you my ultimate feel on A&M as it pertains to the 2022 season. So the first bullet point that we got to talk about is the quarterback competition. You have Haynes, who was the guy a year ago and got hurt. You have Max Johnson, the LSU transfer with a lot of experience. You got Connor Wegman, who has just about every accolade at the high school level from a recruiting standpoint, how highly he came to College Station, how highly touted he was when he got to College Station. He's a guy they're excited about in the future. And the report as of right now is that all three look good. You probably err more on the side of if you could just pick one of these guys, when you just have to pick one of these guys, quite frankly. But if you had to pick one of these guys today, you probably wouldn't go with Wegman for the sheer fact that you want him to be able to redshirt and continue to develop. And he's still trying to pick up the offense and get totally synced up with everybody on that side of the ball. But Jimbo Fisher's offense is not easy to process, let alone process it as a true freshman. So he's going to get there. He is the future in College Station, but he's probably not the way you go in 2022, but he's making it tough on the staff. The focus is on Haynes and Max Johnson. Now, Jimbo Fisher has been adamant, hey, they are both getting first-team reps, and they're both getting the same amount of first-team reps. So he's not showing an edge to either guy so far in camp. Now, you talk to people around College Station, around Texas A&M, and they say the lean is ever so slightly towards Haynes. Now, Haynes, in the very small sample size we have of him, exemplifies two things. The first is an extremely high ceiling. He is one of the best athletes, not just best offensive players, best quarterbacks. He is one of the best athletes on this roster. I think they said in the spring he was the third fastest in terms of recorded miles per hour that they have on the catapult device. So dude can go, and he plays quarterback. So there's so much juice he brings to your offense and so much versatility he brings to your offense when your quarterback can be such a dual threat. Now, the second thing that he has put on display is I don't want to say it's a habit, but it's something that he's done a couple of times. He turns the ball over, right? I mean, we saw it in his first start. We saw it a lot in the spring game. I think 2 of his 3 interceptions in his first start were off tip passes, and then in the spring game, it was a ridiculous amount of wind. So some of it is still up for debate, but turnovers, historically, from what we've been able to see, have been a thing with Haynes. So you have a really high ceiling option in Haynes, and then you have Max Johnson, who is a really high floor option. He doesn't bring the same thing to the table in terms of what he can do running the football, but what he probably is going to do for you in a more secure sense is he is not going to turn the ball over as much, or you don't feel like he's going to turn the ball over as much. So 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions a year ago, pretty solid numbers. You just need somebody to be able to drive this car. The A&M roster as a whole, but the offense as well, has a lot of pieces. You're going to be able to turn and hand the ball to Devon Achane, and he's going to be a stud for you, but whoever is playing quarterback needs to be able to be a playmaker as well as make the right decisions, and I think that's what they're looking at when it comes to this quarterback race. So again, slight lean towards Haynes, but they're playing this thing very, very close to the vest. I wouldn't be surprised if you end up seeing both these guys play at some point. They're playing an SEC schedule. Look at what they did a year ago. They had Zach Calzada playing against A&M, and he was not named the starter to start the year. So you probably need both these guys. You may see both these guys, but ultimately you want one guy to grab the job by the throat and just take it and run. That's what you want to have happen. The update there is Haynes King is, by some people's feel around this program, has the slight edge. Moving on, talking about fall camp, you got to talk about the freshmen, and there's a lot of exciting freshmen to talk about in College Station. You all know the big names, Evan Stewart, wide receiver, who will probably be wide receiver 1 for them outside. You have Jake Johnson, a tight end that we here at On3 have on our true freshman preseason All-American team. But there's 2 guys that I was told about that they are really excited about. They're a little more under the radar, but they're guys that they think can ultimately make an impact and have turned some heads at fall camp. The first is running back Le'Veon Moss. Le'Veon Moss is, to put it bluntly, a grown man. He is physically already capable of playing, and he's a freakish athlete as well. 22 miles per hour on the treadmill this summer. For those of you that don't know, that's really fast. In some school zones, that's speeding. You're pulling Le'Veon Moss over. So they think that he can potentially help them in a rotational standpoint at running back. Obviously, they have guys at running back, but if he can just help add depth there, if he can be a guy that earns some carries, that'd be a really great thing. So Le'Veon Moss, a guy they're really excited about. Like I said, about 5'11", 200 pounds, but carved out of marble. The other freshman that we're hearing about, who is not getting quite as much buzz just yet, but is turning heads in fall camp, Noah Thomas, wide receiver. He is about 6'5", 180 pounds. He was recorded at going at 23 miles per hour on the treadmill. So dude can fly. The rumor is around the program, we haven't had a guy with this combo of size and speed since Mike Evans, maybe. I mean, they think that highly of him, that he is going to be special as he progresses. Right now, he's running with the 2s. I think you could see him get involved in some of the red zone stuff they do offensively because of how big his body is and his potential to win 50-50 balls. Noah Thomas is a guy they're fired up about. Both these guys turning heads early in fall camp. The third point, the defense is really deep. The defense is going to be stupid this coming year. They were 3rd last year nationally in terms of points allowed per game. They bring a lot of guys back. The most interesting thing that I heard was this defensive line is so deep to where you hear teams having 1s and 2s and starters and reserves. They're just going to have units. Like, it's going to be just, hey, this group's tired. Okay, get the next group in. So you have that 1s and 2s unit where you have Diggs and Turner, and then you have that second group with some of the young bucks with Walter Nolan, Anthony Lucas. I mean, they're going to have some options to play here on this defensive line. And quite frankly, when you get into SEC play, it's so much about the trenches. Like, yes, you got to have a quarterback. Yes, you got to have a receiver. Yes, you got to have the explosive playmakers on the outside and be able to play that game as well. But you look at Georgia, you look at Alabama. The 2 teams that met in the national title game a year ago. 2 of the best defensive fronts in the game. You win the game up front. Want to make that very clear. And they're really excited about what they have up front this coming year in College Station and also for years to come with the 7 or 8 defensive linemen they already signed. And they're on campus now as young bucks that they think can help them right away. So they're excited about that in the future. Also in the secondary, they returned 4 of 5 guys, so got some depth and experience there. Bottom line, the defense looks as advertised, and they think they're going to be able to, they think they're going to be able to keep them in every single game. No matter what the offense does and the growing pains they have, they think they're going to be able to keep them in every single game because of what they have in the trenches and on the back end. They talk about, hey, this might be, if you had to pick a weakness of this defense, which sounds funny to even say out loud, if you had to pick a weaker point in this defense, maybe it's the linebackers. And guess what? You have a potential All-American player there in the middle. So there's not a lot to be concerned about on defense. The depth is the biggest thing that stood out from fall camp. So here's my ultimate feel on Texas A&M. Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. I think A&M is a recipe that is just one ingredient away from being a masterpiece. I'll give you a story. Valentine's Day, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, I decide I'm going to make her a pasta dish. And so I'm in the kitchen, I'm getting nice with it, I'm whipping something up, and I realize I don't have butter. How many of you know it is so difficult to make a sauce for a pasta? I think it was like a creamy Alfredo, I forget what it was. You can't make it without butter. No matter how high quality those other ingredients that I had, whether it was the pasta was top of the line, whether it was the spices were top of the line, if I had the best pot to boil it in, it didn't matter because I didn't have the key crucial ingredient to make this recipe. And that's how I feel about A&M. They need to have that one key ingredient to get them over the top. Most notably, got to have it at quarterback and at a receiver. So they have guys they feel really strongly about, they think can do that, but it remains to be seen. Again, I have my reservations about Haynes King and what he does turning the ball over. Evan Stewart is going to be, by most accounts, the next big receiver for them at A&M. I mean, Anaya Smith is a playmaker, but the quarterback position, if you don't have that right, it's tough to reach your potential. Because don't get it twisted, they have all the other ingredients around them. They have the defensive line. They have the secondary. I told you the linebackers could be All-American level. They have the running back and Devon Achane. They have, like I just said, Anaya Smith and potentially Evan Stewart being that next big play wide receiver. They have so many ingredients. But if you don't have the key ingredient right at quarterback, it's going to be tough to get it done and to get where you're capable of going. So all that's to say, A&M is very much so poised for a big year potentially. I need to see it at quarterback. To get over the 8.5 number and beyond, I need to see it at quarterback. Rooting for Haynes King on this show. We love what he brings to the table, but I need to see it on the field on Saturdays. So we'll watch that. That's it for us here on The Hard Count. Appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at JDPikel. We're also on podcast. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review and comment a question. We'll answer that in the future if you have that 5-star review. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.